So I'll press on now, and I will tell you a bit about the completion block. So what the completion block does is it's a really useful tool for firstly getting an indication either as a student or as a teacher of where the student is up to, and secondly it's also it's a very valuable tool for demonstrating engagement to ASQA auditors. You are able to generate a spreadsheet report, but that is almost unreadable. But our conversations with the ASQA auditors have indicated that they're actually quite happy if you just take a screenshot of the engagement report, and I'll show you that shortly. So this is, I'm assuming you can all see my slides here. So you should be able to see a slide that says eLearn completion block, and this is what the block looks like. Fantastic. So this just kind of sits up in the left or the right hand side of the screen. There's two distinct views. This is the view that you get as a student, and it's pretty limited. It shows you, okay, look, so you've set up completion for 13 activities. I've done 12 of them. You can click through to see more details, which looks like this, and this is really useful. So this is still a student view, and you can see that I've done pretty much everything except for the first little bit. The other interesting thing that you'll be able to see is that under the requirements, there's actually two different ways that you can have this set up. With the completion, you can set it up so that the students can just tick the little box to the side of the resource of the activity saying that they've done it, or you can actually set conditions. So in this instance, I've linked the completion to a bunch of forums, and so the condition that I've chosen is viewing the forum. So as long as the student's actually been in, had a look at the forum, then that counts as completion as far as I'm concerned. Now from a teacher perspective, what you get is a report that looks a bit more like this. Now this is the report out of the FLN website. Can submission be a condition? Yes, I believe it can. One of the other conditions you can actually set up is that the teacher has to tick it off and say that it's been completed as well. So it might be that the student submits it, and that's, you know, considered their part of the job, and then once the teacher's graded it, they check it off, and then that activity is, you know, completely regarded as having been completed. So yeah, this is what the report looks like. As I say, you can just take a little screenshot of this, give this to the ASQA auditors, and they're quite happy. So let me just show you how to actually use this. Now what I was going to do here, I was hoping I could actually set Connect up so that I could have the slides with the instructions in one window and then the screen sharing in the other one, but then I tested it and you can have either or. So what I'm going to do instead is be a bit sneaky, paste, that came up a bit messy. These are essentially the instructions. If you look down into the files area in the bottom right of your screen, you'll see that there is actually a PowerPoint and also our link to the instructions about conditional release. So you can download those files at any time. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing now, share my screen. Where'd that go? Sorry, I'm just trying to find the window that I've actually got open. Alright, so what we've got now is... Okay, so can you actually see the screen? If someone could speak to me, because I can't see Connect at the moment.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. Alright, so there's a couple of steps involved in getting your conditional release working. So what you need to do is firstly go into the settings for your course and edit the edit the settings for your course. This is just to make sure that activity tracking is actually active. And then right down the bottom here, under student progress, you can either have completion tracking enabled or disabled. Obviously we want to have that enabled. So we save that. Eventually, once that's saved, for every activity and for every, okay, so that will be set to default by January, so that is pretty useful. So you won't actually need to do that after next year, but if you are wanting to use it this year, then that's something to consider. So now that tracking is set up, let's just take a look at the news forum here. And if we go into the settings for the news forum, and it's the same, as I say, for absolutely every activity or every resource that we create, and it's always right down the very bottom. And so what we've got now is a field or a section that relates to activity completion. As I mentioned before, the student can either manually mark the activity themselves, or you can show the activity as complete when certain conditions are met. And we've got a set of conditions that we can choose from. So we'll say that for this to be complete, the student has to actually view the activity, and maybe they also have to, now this isn't going to, that's interesting, because for a news forum you can't post discussions. But let's say it was a normal forum, obviously you can set that up. Do we change the setting for each activity? Yes, you do. Oh no, you only need to enable tracking once, but for activity completion you need to change that. You need to turn that on for each activity and each resource. So now that we've saved that, and it's always the waiting, that's the fun part of using eLearn. Sorry, okay, so I keep seeing little messages popping up, but they disappear before I can read them. So if you can hold off the questions for a second, I'll try and answer them once I'm done. What we want to do then is, and actually you'll see, so now next to the news forum, next to latest news and announcements on the right hand side here, there's now a checkbox, and it's dotted, which means that it's conditional. So something has to happen in the news forum for that to actually be ticked. Now what I'm going to do is add a course completion block to the course. You know, most of the blocks I've got sort of sitting over the side here, and in a second that will all disappear. Now as I'm in here as a teacher, I'm not currently being tracked by completion in this course, but as soon as I change over to being a student, that will change, and it will tell me how far I've gotten with the activities in this particular course. And you'll see that I've completed 11 out of 13, and then I can pop down here. This is what I showed you before, where you can see exactly what it is that I need to do. And where's the one that I haven't done? Okay. Go into the code of conduct. All I need to do is to view this. Now it sometimes takes a couple of minutes for the changes to actually register, so you'll see that hasn't changed yet, but rest assured that it will. So now if I return to my normal role, I can view the course report, all from the completion status block, and I can see absolutely everyone. Now, this is not a standard course because this is the FLN and there's 210 people. Presumably your course would look a little bit more user-friendly. But yeah, that's essentially the report that you get. Now, there's a couple of places that you can add some additional settings for this. In the settings box here, there is distinct settings for completion tracking. Now, one of the things in this example, because I've been jumping in and out and playing with things and we've been using this in the past, kind of the same with quizzes. If you've done something, then it will kind of lock the system down, because if you were to make some changes, obviously that's going to render the previous data invalid. Now, that's not as important in this particular course, and all you need to do is unlock the completion options and then delete the user completion data. Obviously that is not something you're necessarily going to want to do in your course. So yeah, so you can set it up so that a teacher or flex ed person or whatever is also able to manually complete the thing. You've got a list here of all of the resources and the items that have got completion tracking on them and the ones that don't. And you can also set it up so that to finish the whole thing they need to get a particular grade. And that's essentially how it all works. So let me jump back into Connect and stop sharing that, and now I can take a little bit of a look at what you've been asking. Okay, so Carol thought it was already default as the tick boxes appear when you create a new activity. I'm not sure about that one. Penny? I know, I have noticed that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, not sure either, because I normally started it when I first open a course, so I normally say completion tracking on. So that's what sets it to go.
Okay, yep. Yeah, and so for Carol's second one, you've got the option. You can have either. So you can either have the tick boxes that the students tick, or it can be set up so that it's only considered complete if they've actually opened the document or finished the quiz or added something to the survey or made, 3 posts on a forum. Alright, so I can see that Carol's typing. Can the students see the tick boxes when it's just for the students to complete? Well, for the teacher to complete? Yes, I believe so. I think, one of the purposes of the tick boxes is just to give the students some feedback about, what they've finished and what they're sort of still needing to do in the course. Alright, well, if there aren't any extra questions, I'll wrap it up. As I say, we do have a guide down here, also up on teacher.cit, the conditional release guide, which covers a lot of what I've covered in this presentation, and you can grab the PowerPoints with those kind of slightly more well-formatted instructions for doing this.